kind-hearted girl. I'm in a famous band. I've been around the world. I soak in movies and magazines, newspapers, TV, and song on the radio. I've got so much family, not only counting blood. I've got a life, you see. I grew up dreaming of, and so now I do not know how I can feel so damn lucky and still feel so alone. I've tried so many things to make it go away. Sometimes a song to sing, this is the only way. Sometimes two chords and the truth is all I can do to keep from feeling so alone. Loneliness is a dangerous wind. You breathe it out and you breathe it in. Loneliness is a terrible game when you have guilty feelings just son. What has he done? What has he done? You don't have to be a millionaire to buy the world and told to see. You don't have to be a beggar man to know how cruel the world can be. The sun comes up, the sun goes down on a little quiet Southern Baptist mountain town. All the signs are all around that God chose smack dab here in America. 15,000 miles away lives a bunch of people that the preachers say, well, they don't pray the way we pray, so the souls are gonna have to burn in hell forever. Whoa, whoa, wow, wow, but if the sinner says he's sorry, goes to paradise. But a good man's soul will surely fly from a land that never ever heard the name of Jesus Christ. Words move slow and word moves fast, but the words with the biggest army surely last. Sometimes words will make it past an ocean deep or a jungle vast. So it takes a man to do God's plan. Put a Bible in every hand and try to change him if he can, 'cause if he don't, then the souls are burning hell forever. Whoa, whoa, wow, wow, well, if a sinner says he's sorry, goes to paradise. But a good man's soul will surely fly from a land that never ever heard the name of Jesus. Whoa, whoa, wow, wow, well, if he's sorry, goes to paradise. But a good man's soul will surely fly from a land that never ever heard the name of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. I've got so many friends and a good-hearted girl. I'm in a famous band. I've been around the world. I spoke in movies and magazines, newspapers, TV, and song on the radio. I've got so much family, not only counting blood. I've got a life, you see. I grew up dreaming of, and so now I do not know how I can feel so damn lucky and still feel so alone. I've tried so many things away, Sometimes a song to sing. This is the only way. Sometimes two chords and the truth is all I can do to keep from feeling alone. Loneliness is a dangerous wind. You breathe it out and you breathe it in. Loneliness is a terrible game when you have guilty feelings just cause you got feelings. Now all you're feeling is shame. Loneliness is a dangerous wind. You breathe it out and you breathe it in. Loneliness is a terrible game when you have guilty feelings just cause you got feelings. Now all you're feeling is shame. Maybe my loneliness, maybe it's just my pride, that which I can't express, that which I keep inside. So then if I let it go, well maybe I won't be feeling. So if I let it go, well maybe I won't be feeling. So if I let it go, well maybe I won't be feeling so alone.
And that is how we get started. Really beautiful. Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Plankenhorn, and this is 20 Question Tuesdays. My guest this week is Jeff, aka Hortillosa, and we're going to have a good old time, and we're going to talk all sorts of stuff. Oh, I didn't finish writing down that question from Susan. Susan's always got great questions. So that's how professional this show is, Jeff. Just get ready, bro. So the questions come from the audience. For those of you who don't know, 20 Question Tuesdays started out basically, it was kind of early on in the pandemic. I flipped my camera on, I started a workshop, and I started getting questions from all over the place. I had musicians, I had songwriters, I had managers, I had promo people, I had people who didn't know anything, particularly about music, just were fans. But he started asking me these super cool questions. Every Tuesday, I started flipping on my camera at 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 1 p.m., of course, in Texas. And I'm still on Vancouver Island. Came up here before the pandemic and been behind the border ever since. Behind the maple curtains, we like to say. And it's been wonderful. As far as places to be stuck, it's not so bad. But I will be coming back to Texas, so if anybody wants to know, in August, just go to plank.wf/shows. That's my website. And also a little bit more housekeeping. I always forget about this stuff. I actually have my own EP release digital on Friday, Covered Uncovered Volume 2. The last song is a cover of a Joe Ely song. Everybody just check all of my you can find out where that is and have it just like dumped right into uh, your mail. But enough about that. I started asking questions online. It was so much fun. And Sheila Steele from Austin Music TV said, "Hey, do you want to put this on the television channel?" I said, "That'd be great." So I got this funky little app where I can stream to multiple platforms. And down the bottom, there's a little button right there I'm pointing at that has like a person and a plus sign. And I was like, ooh, I can invite guests. Way more interesting than me just talking every week, right? Y'all don't have to answer that. That's okay. But first guest I had, I think, was Michael O'Connor, and had Jamie Harris, and then it just started snowballing. I had Bill Kirchen, and I had Ray Wiley Hubbard, and I had Ruthie Foster, and some weeks I get on musicians, and some weeks I get on pickers, songwriters, and I even had recently Peggy from Peggy Porch Party on, who's like a really, really great house concert motor, and all these kind of things just really, really make me happy. And I love the conversation, and I love your questions way more than anything I could put together. I am in a new plank tank. I had to move. It's pretty cool looking, but I've heard that the internet is choppy, so apologies. We're trying to get that worked out, and I'm hoping it's working. Joseph, can't wait to see you back in Texas in August. Also, last bit of housekeeping. This weekend, Friday, I'm going to be playing a festival in Duncan here in BC, and it will be live streamed on YouTube from the Duncan showroom. And it's called the 39 Days of July Festival, and I'm using my first Canadian, which is super exciting. And going to be rocking out and playing bass and drums and all that. Okay, so without further ado, I want to dive right into the questions, and I want to bring on our guest. Here he is. Horti, what's happening?
Howdy, howdy. How's it
Hello.
going?
It's going all right, man. Let's see. I'm going to make sure everybody out there can hear. I can hear you okay.
Whoa.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. I have my thing set to my little Scarlet Focusrite box over here. I think the
I'm
green light is
using the
going off.
exact same box, so we didn't know.
Oh,
Maybe that's the sponsor I need to get so I can stop with the tips or just not sweat them anymore. I like the tips because I want to make sure that you walk away with like, hey, I can take my girl out for a meal or something, or I can get a
yeah.
tank of gas, or I could do whatever, which is nice. But hey, man, how the hell are you?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. I'm actually on my lunch break right now. My morning duties and my afternoon all staff event at work.
Well, we've got like all sorts of questions that have already come in, and I'm sure a lot more are going to come in. Hey, Mark, over on Twitch, thanks for saying the audio's good. Good to hear it. I appreciate that.
Sweet.
I would rather, I'm just going to start diving into the questions and get people talking because that's what I love about this show so much.
Sure.
And we'll make sure we hit all the topics that we want to hit, and you can plug things that you want to plug too because, you know, we got to help each other out that way. So Randy D's asks, and this is it's a good softball. I'm going to start with a softball and then go to one that's like super hard
Okie
because I
dokie.
have two great questions. Randy D's asks a question. He goes, "Picks or fingers? Favorite guitar?" And because I know you and I know that your work through different projects has taken you from I'm going to play a flat top box and I'm going to really kind of work on a style with the Whiskey Shivers to I'm going to play this kind of mod strat with Manila doing like the rock band thing
Right.
to that last single that we were listening to Alone, which has this gorgeous, I think it's an archtop sound. It's an archtop in the
Oh,
video,
it's an arch top.
you
It's
know,
nice.
probably with fingers. So if we could just get guitar nerdy for a minute, my guess is that guitar nerdy wise, it depends on the gig, it depends on the song, and you're like me, and that you like having a bunch of guitars around for different
Yeah.
sounds.
Oh, definitely. I love having guitars around. They're always kind of hanging out. Um, I have an arch top that I'm a big fan of. It's an Eastman AR 501. I have a second arch top, and that's like my second. That's a Lore. I think it's a
Mm.
LH 401 or something like that. And then I have a couple of dreadnoughts that I use for grass and any sort of acoustic stuff. And then, like you said, modded strats. I have a couple of strats that I've modded myself. One is it's the brand is Riff, which was a Samick offshoot in the '90s. It was a series guitar, but,
Nice.
it totally put some screaming demons in it. And then I have a Kramer caster, which is a Kramer guitar that I put some Texas specials in it. Let's see.
Now, what's a Texas Special? Is that a single coil?
That's a single coil. Yeah, I forget how it's like over one. Actually, I didn't even get actual Texas specials. I got Hot Texas Pickups by dragonfire.com, or Dragonfire out of Portland, I guess.
Nice. I love
Um,
I love weird guitars. I love odd guitars. I have a project right now that are you familiar with the old guitar player Hiram Bullock?
mm-mm.
You don't remember Hiram Bullock? He played with
No.
Jaco Pastorius, and he
Oh
played in the
wow.
original Saturday Night Live band.
Oh
And he was this crazy cat, and I used to love his tone. He was like my only Strat guy, because in Austin, a lot of us are kind of anti-Strat. We're like, "Mm,
yeah.
whatever," and then which is silly, right? Who cares what you play if it sounds great? You hear the cat. Andrew from the Greyhounds playing a Strat. It's
Yeah.
a lot different. He didn't sound much like a Vaughn clone. It's everybody's different. So anyway, long story short, I used to always love his Strat because it had two humbuckers and a single in the middle.
Mm.
Because the single in the middle was always my favorite Strat position. Like
You
all of
see,
the Strat positions, the middle one single coil was my favorite. So I got Roger Blevins and I were talking of Go Fish Trap. There's my first name drop of the show. He and I were
yo.
talking, and I was like, "Man, I'm thinking about putting together this guitar." And by the end of the conversation, he was like, "Well, I'll just do it for you."
Oh,
And
cool.
so he's putting together like a Hiram Bullock sort of like tribute Strat for me. And I haven't had a Strat
Cool.
since I was 13.
Yeah, I have a down payment. I have a Strat on layaway over at South Austin Music that I'm steadily chipping at. Uh, my
Nice.
friend Strat, he modded it out, so it's all to his specs. So I'm pretty stoked on it. I was pretty anti-Strat for a while too. I don't know. I guess I was trying to do the. I came from like a more Strat, sort of your generic Strat, early '90s, like that was my initial foray into music and playing guitar and whatnot. So by the time I looped around and got to bluegrass and songwriting and whatever other stuff and folk, I wanted to do more. Obviously, play more acoustic dreadnought
Sure.
sort of stuff. I used to play a cutaway thin acoustic, but that didn't really cut it in bluegrass. That was more like a coffee shop college guitar.
Oh yeah, and
Uh,
you will also get very very you have some sour looks and some side eyes from bluegrassers with a cutaway.
oh yeah, totally.
They'll
That's funny.
be like, "Are you really playing up there, man?
Right,
There? Why are you
right, right,
playing
right.
up there? Why?" Like guitar won't sound as good when it's got that cut out, and it's like, "All right,
Yeah,
man. Okay,
yeah.
okay,
It's well, then
whatever."
everyone plugs into a system, and it's like your $3,000 Martin is going through a $200 pickup, and then what?
Yeah, and then it sounds the same as like a really really good Takamine.
Right.
I am not sorry because I've seen too many people play crappy guitars and sound great, and too many
Yeah.
people play amazing expensive guitars, and uh,
Oh yeah.
so
That's
and
I go from bottom end to top end too. I mean, I have my nice guitars, and then I have like my dinky guitars that also sound super cool. And you
yeah.
kind of you play them because they sound dinky.
Well, right, because they give some sort of different tone. I mean, like on this shoulder is like a Gibson Hummingbird, and on this shoulder is a 40 student model that's made out of plywood.
Hmm.
And guess what? I play them on the same gig back to back through the system.
Oh, cool. Right, right.
But it doesn't
Yeah, it's just
matter.
whatever
No,
inspires
no,
you to write the song. To me, it's
that's
like such a.
exactly right.
That's like saying, do you like writing in little notebooks or on a typewriter? It's all kind of, it's just different stuff. The different words and different feelings are going to come out through different mediums. And luckily, if you practice enough and you put in enough time into your own tone and sound, then it's all going to sound like you. It's just a matter of what it's going to come out of.
Well, that leads perfectly into two other questions. First
Oh,
of
wait,
all,
really,
do you
really quick.
use little tiny
Let me.
note?
Sorry.
Do it.
I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say picks or fingers. I guess we've covered that a little bit, but both. But both.
Both.
Yeah, the final part of the first question. Sorry, what were you saying though?
No. Please, we got to be able to do that. This medium, a lot of interruption. It just becomes part of the thing, and I apologize in advance for that. Um, yeah, because I'll finger pick some tunes with the thumb and two finger picks because I really like to go between strumming and picking. But then there's
Hmm.
certain songs where just like no, my bare fingers feel right,
Right.
and there's no reason not to just go with that instinct,
Yeah,
whatever tone you're
truly.
going for, right? And I've
Hmm.
seen you, bash the soup out of it, and I've seen you flat pick and be precise. And like I was saying on that single alone, is that pretty much fingers? Because it's got a little bit of is that fingers? It's
It's
pretty.
chickeny.
It's nice and
It's chicken. It's a little bit of both.
okay. People
Yeah,
don't know chicken picking is when you have a flat pick and you use a couple of fingers.
these two diddlies. Sometimes I'll do these three
Exactly,
diddlies, but that's
exactly.
primarily these guys.
Yeah. And it brings into so what I love about it is Lee Doctor, I call him Doctor, he's a buddy of mine from way back. He says, how does Horty get the incredible guitar tone? Is it gear, fingers? And basically what we're saying through this, and you can articulate it as best you can, is that it's more about you and trying like intent than it is specific gear, and then it's knowing your gear, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of all that stuff. I mean, certainly, yeah, it's so frou-frou, but you have to be like spiritually lined up to hit the milestones in your guitar solos. It's like your solo starts this way, and then it evolves into this, and then it evolves into this, and then and those aren't compartmentalized chunks. They're all like weird intertwined chunks of varying size that kind of just puzzle together and then paint the picture by the end. And it's like I feel if I can't confidently get from point A to point B, then points B to C is gonna suck. C to D, I might get it back,
Yeah, yeah, you might
And
kind of
then,
ease back into it.
right, but then there's gonna be a chunky period of unsmoothness that makes me feel like, oh man, I wish they wasn't recording that one.
Absolutely. Now, between bands, do you improvise solos a lot? Do you try and play different every night? Do you try to make a show a show? I
Um,
find that again, different shows I have different approaches to.
yeah. With Shivers stuff, that was mostly like, the solos. I would play the solos that were on the albums, and then over time those would evolve, and then it would be like the same solo, like it'd be like 98% the same solo every night, but then over the course of years it changed. Uh,
It would morph.
with Horty stuff, when I'm playing just acoustic guitar, I don't really solo that much. I'm mostly just doing chords and then like chord melodies and some light Travis picking or what have you, finger style. That's more gentle. Sometimes I'm really into like Tony Rice, Church Street Blues. If you guys are into that album.
Oh man, I still remember that, man.
Oh yeah,
Capoed
that's
on the let's see, the third and fourth fret. It's out of C position.
yep,
That's
yep,
a
yep.
really really great one.
That
Yeah,
one's
that's
really great.
a Norman Blake song.
Norman Blake, indeed. Coming from that whole bluegrass school for the last long while, I've incorporated a lot of melody into chord picking, I guess you could call it. I'm not sure. Shaping chords over like the melodies and trying to let notes really ring out for long periods of time. But when I'm playing a Strat though, when I call it, okay, so you're gonna like this. You're gonna really like this. I have one amp that I use for everything. It's a Dova made by Jeremy Slamenda, name drop. He built that guy for me to my specs, and it's my only amp. It's the only amp I've had in like 10 years. It's amazing. I love it. And then I play with just a little verb and delay on one box, and that's for most things. I'll do that. All of my styles, and then little dirt on the amp. But then I have one pedal made by Durham Electronics called the Mucho Busto. I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
sure
I
if
know
you're
the
familiar with it. So then I
Mucho. It's
got
a
a
great
second
pedal.
Mucho Busto. I got an older Mucho Busto, so I have two Mucho Bustos that I run at the same time. And that's my strat tone. That's my
So
that's
you've
my double driven
got
tone.
like you've got clean, dirt, and dirt.
Yeah, indeed.
Like
I have the two Mucho
super
Bustos
dirt.
set to the same. So it's like
Really?
it's just yeah, pretty much. It's not like one Mucho Busto is dirty and one's clean. They're both just set to the same amount of mucho busto.
That's really neat. And I mean, the thing, I
It's
guess the
super
thing that's
cool.
the real takeaway for people is to think outside the box, literally the box, your stomp box,
Hmm.
and to fiddle with things until you find something that works for you. The idea of
Yeah,
having, two tube screamers right next to each other at the exact same setting is a little bit outside of what most people would think. But having two mucho bustos and that becomes your
yeah.
sound, that's
Right.
freaking
So to me,
cool.
it's like it directly translates to playing acoustically because when you're playing an acoustic in a natural setting, you don't really have pedals. You can't boost. You can't change your gain structure. You're just
It's your
playing.
hands.
Right. So the best thing to do instead of trying to play harder from the, and this is something it took me a long time to learn. Like I would have like elbow problems and my fingers would bleed and like you said, I would slam it.
Oh
But once
yeah.
upon a time, it was a very ham-fisted, lacking technique slam. It was just like, yeah, it
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
awful. It was awful. I don't know how I survived that.
It was
Uh,
punk. You could just say it was
yeah, it's
punk.
punk. It's punk as hell. So golly, where was I going with that? Oh, so acoustically, it's like after a while you learn that it's like save the hard, intense stuff for the solos, and then just kind of learn to glide it out the rest of the time. But do it with enough deft and skill to where it's not like sonically missing anything for the other people who are depending upon you. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I know very well, and I also know that it takes us a long time. It is not instinctive for us to think to play an electric guitar acoustically to understand how it works. Play your
Exactly.
electric guitar acoustically, not plugged in, understand what's going on,
Hmm.
how it feels, and you're gonna get a lot more vibe. A lot of people
Yeah.
think that we have to hit hard here, we have to press hard here. We don't.
Hmm.
And it's like you
Right.
play light over here, and that's how people can play fast if that's something that's
Right.
interesting to you.
Well, that's the
Your
thing. I feel
volume
like
and your
beginners
articulation comes from here.
yeah, a beginner's perception of guitar and how like a guitar player plays is sadly oftentimes informed by like the first guitar that they pick up. They're like, "Oh, I wonder what playing guitar is like," and it's like $100 student model, and they're like, "Oh, my hands, this must be awful." But then you get to
Yeah.
play like a nice, like an $800 Strat or something, and you're like, "Oh, oh, it's just kind
Oh,
of made for
that's
you to
how
like."
it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a laptop keyboard. It's just like you're not really doing anything,
I Yeah, and tell people too, they'll say, wow, he makes it look so easy. And it's like, well, it is for him or her.
Right,
Because the thing is, they've practiced enough that it's just moving your fingers around. It's
right,
not,
right,
it's like, okay, I've done this 1,000 times.
right,
That's what I joke about a lot. Somebody will say, well, how do I get to the point where I can play an F chord? Play it 1,000 times.
right.
Not
Well,
100, a
I, I
thousand.
I feel like it's like to me, kind of getting like the solo right or getting the guitar tone or whatever, feeling that right. It's like you have to be in touch with what you're trying. Again, like to go back to that first point, like you have to be like spiritually aligned up to make it from point A to point B. But it's like if you're like a courtroom, what's the word? Like a courtroom artist, like you have to draw people. It's like
Oh,
you
yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah.
draw them. You have to draw them right there, or you're not going to get it. You can't go home and draw it. So it's like when you're playing guitar, if you feel something, the sooner you can get to where you can just play what you're feeling, like sonically, that's dying in the moment, as opposed to like, like your hands just kind of doodle daddle, and you're like, oh wait, where are my hands? I
Yeah.
think I'm feeling bluesy. It's like
Yeah,
I
that's why I've always been
think
a big fan of singing what you play as well. Not necessarily at the show. That's why so many jazz players do it. But I had the good fortune of my brother being a guitar player and saying, if you can't sing it, you probably shouldn't play it because you don't know what you're playing.
oh
And
yeah,
he didn't mean singing it like literally and have to have that much range. He meant if you can't go and you're playing a jazz tune, then you're just laying your fingers down and playing a bunch of patterns. And
right, exactly,
I'm amazed when I'm hanging out with guitar players. I'm like, sing what you play, and they just have no idea. And then they start doing it, and they create better solos. When Bill Kirchen was on, great guitar player, Bill Kirchen was like, yeah, man, he's like, if you really want to learn to make guitar solos that somebody asked him the question, how do you get out of scales? And he was like, get a kazoo. He's like, nobody ever takes me up on this, and it's you got to do it. He's like, get a kazoo. He's like, play a kazoo guitar solo, then figure it out on your guitar.
oh
He's like,
wow,
I guarantee it's not going to to sound like a scale. It's going to sound like you. It's going to sound like nobody else. And I was just like, you're so right, man. You're
That's
so
awesome.
right, you know? Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
love that too. Okay, so remember I said that I was going to kind of go into a tough question. I
Sure.
really, really love this question to answer, but I love the sentiment behind it. And I know how I feel about this kind of stuff. How does it, Kelly Cooper, it's a strange spelling of Kelly, but I think it's Kelly. Kelly Cooper says, how does it feel when you see people reflecting the love you send out in your music? Basically, when you get a vibe, I think what she's trying to say, or he, Kelly could be a dude, of course. You know, when you're playing and you're giving a lot and you're getting a lot back. Tell me about your particular feeling. I'm obviously spiritually aligned is an important thing for you. So
Yeah. Uh, I mean that can be, it can be like the most validating and most involving thing, and makes you feel like you belong so much to a crowd, you know? It's like when it really works out and it's actually resonating like that, and you can see that they're loving it and you're loving it and everyone's like vibe is rising, and it's that's awesome, right? That's great. Professionally, as a professional, I've done it so many times that there have been totally 100% nights where I didn't feel the love at all. Not like,
yeah,
not saying that the crowd wasn't giving me the love, but that I was like, you know, repeating the pattern. Like I'd practiced the song, I'd known the harmonies, I'd done the solo. I could just tune out and watch TV in the back of the room and play the song and still give it a
and
go,
still,
you know, like not to steal the magic from it, but truly as a professional, you know what it's like. You have to like, here I am,
oh, I
guys,
do.
even though deep down inside you could be like withering away. So that when you're
Well, your cat
feeling
could have
that
died
sort
that
of,
day.
say what?
Your cat could have died that
Yeah,
day. You
exactly,
still got to go
exactly.
out and do it
Something, but you still got to do it, you know. So
because you
you're
don't
like,
want to take it away from those people.
no, not at all. No, they're like
Mm-mm.
that's their day. Like they bought the ticket, they chunked out the time, they had their friends, you know. But when they're all smiling, like sometimes it pulls you back and you're like, all right, cool, I'm into it. And most of the time, like if it's a real vibe, then that's cool. But sometimes it's like, oh my God, I'm like on another planet right now. What's going on? You know?
Yeah,
Like
it
to
can
be
be
perfectly
very,
honest,
very strange.
it can get strange. It can get strange.
Yeah, the
Like,
bigger
you
the
know, most of the
audience,
time it's
it,
really cool. Some of the time it gets really weird. It makes you recede even further into whatever shell you might have been in.
well, that's right. And they also kind of have an expectation of this image you are versus what you are. And, you know, if you're not in control of what that is,
Hmm.
and if you're not comfortable with what that is, it's a lot harder. Or if you're in a band and it's somebody else's image, or, you know, the label has pushed you to be this kind of band and do
Sure.
this kind of thing, all
Right.
that stuff can be really tough. I don't know about you, man, but I've played songs that I love that it's amazing for me that 20 years later people are still requesting. But some songs, even some new songs, I could be like playing along and I'm singing and I'm fronting a band and I'm about something that's going on in my day and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm at the solo already.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And like that's hard and people have they don't know because we've just done it and it's become this expression for us
Right.
times, you
Right.
know, that it is like riding a bike, like walking, like whatever.
Yeah.
And I hate it when that happens because I don't ever want it to come to that. And when I snap out of it, usually I'm like, just connect with somebody in the crowd.
Yeah. Right.
Like if I catch myself doing that, just kind of poke around and I'll be like, okay, there's a hippie dancing over there. And they're
Yeah.
totally digging it. They're
There's usually
playing with their
someone.
ball or something, you know. I'm gonna play for that person for a minute, you know, and get a
Right.
big smile
It's
on my
always easier
face.
if there's like a bartender, like if you got to meet the bar or like even the sound engineer or like the or the like, you know, just someone from the other band. Because like if you, I mean, those are the people who are in it with you, you know. Those are the people who are in the
Yeah.
game. They're working their day too. It's, you know, it's a fun time, but it's still their job as well. And so, you know, like I oftentimes turn and just kind of look at them and be like, hey, how you doing? You know?
Like, we're doing this. They're
Yeah, we're
getting
doing
it.
this.
Are you
Right,
getting what
right.
you're getting over there? Because I'm getting, you know, it's like Yeah, it's really funny too. I don't know about your experience with significance, but my wife is not a musician per se. Her art is horticulture and all that other stuff. And she told me this great but awful story about how, well, you know what? I'm not going to out too much, but I'll just say this. She's seen behind the curtain. And as a huge music lover, I feel like in some ways I've ruined music for her that way. And it's like I gotta take her to a couple of shows a year for something that I'm not necessarily into that's like her thing. Just zip it.
Yeah.
And we enjoy the show, and she hips me to all kinds of music that I would never hear. But the problem is she'll be at a show and she'll be like, ugh, you, and I'm like, why? And she's like, oh, the band wasn't into it and they were phoning it in, and the sax player wasn't getting enough monitor, and I just kept looking back at the sound engineer like he's trying to tell you, and like all of her friends are like incredible,
Yeah, yeah,
I feel
yeah.
so bad,
No, that's true. You see little things that you didn't, you see the continuity errors in the movie, or so to speak,
beyond the smoke and mirrors
Yeah. But
of
that,
what
I
we
mean, that
do.
too, it's like, again, it's like when you're privy to that stuff and you know about it, then you can kind of appreciate it a little bit more than, I guess, if you understand what people are going through to provide.
It makes it makes me not want to know how movies are made any more than I already do.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know if I learn how movies are made more, it will be great and it will influence my art, and that's fantastic, but it'll take away the mystery. If I watch a movie and all of a sudden I'm like, the grip was way off on this,
Yeah. Yeah.
or I don't know photographer, I don't know about this, then I know I'll ruin it. I know I'll ruin it.
Yeah, that's how I am too. That's how I am too. I studied linguistics in college. That was like one of the things that I really was into. And
Noam Chomsky fan?
yeah, yeah, I'm into Noam. He's a pretty well-rounded individual, I'd say, academically.
Me too.
One of the most, really.
Yep.
But to me, it's like anytime I see sci-fi, I love sci-fi, right? But I'm like, how are they all speaking English? Were there
Oh, I
space
know.
Saxons? Were there space Normans who all came together in space England and decided to
And they
speak?
always say like we have a universal translator. I'm using a universal translator. It's like, well,
Yeah,
that wouldn't change their lips.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's a
Whatever.
luxury as well, Like I could get like the Babelfish in Hitchhiker's Guide. That's a good roundabout
That's
way for
exactly
me.
right. The fish
That's
that you
like
put in your ear
right.
translator.
That's the roundabout way, but it's like I don't know, idiomatic expressions. It's like when you realize that like this idiomatic expression came from France in the 1800s versus this idiomatic expression, which is very American from the 1920s. And here are these people in space just throwing it together. To me, it's like these are humans.
Yeah,
You
basically,
know,
right?
it's so, but
You
it's so
know?
stupid. It's like, of course they're humans. Duh. I
Yeah.
know they're
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's exactly right.
Oh,
So here's another kind of softball question, but I absolutely love it. Actually, we're right in the middle, so let me just say this. Thanks to Austin Music TV for always having us on. We appreciate that. Thanks to AustinCityJams.com and Kirby and everybody over there. Thanks for everybody who tunes in every week. Really, really quickly, thanks to everybody who throws Horty and I a couple of tips. I just want to make sure Horty gets, a good meal out of the show, something of this nature, maybe some gas money, whatever. So thank you all for keeping the show running like that. Maybe someday we'll have a sponsor. Um, and with that, I also really want you guys to know, because we're halfway through, just ways to find out about what Horty is doing, his many projects, from the past Whiskey Shivers stuff to Manila, which is kind of the rock band with a lot of your new music. And then Robin Alice, which is a side project you have with one of the girls from Pitch Perfect, which is pretty hip. Before I go on to some other questions, you want to just tell me just a little bit about that and how it came about? Now, you originally, Whiskey Shivers had a song that was in one of the Pitch Perfects, right?
well, so
Am I anywhere
no,
near right on this?
yeah. Well, we had a song that was on there. It was under the band name Saddle Up, and it was a song
Okay.
that was owned by Universal Music. So we have a song on there, but we're not even close to credited or anything. I wrote a song
Oh,
that
it's one of
they potentially wanted to
those.
use, but right. I have a song that they might have used for a brief snippet in the movie, and that was cool, but they didn't. They ended up taking it. No, it was a vaguely prostitutional Craigslist ad I made called "Eye Candy Lawn Services," and that went viral back in like 2014. And the director of the OK Go music videos is friends with my friend Nick because he worked in advertising and they worked on a Lotto commercial together. She
Uh-huh.
reposted it and she was like, "This guy's funny. I'd like to blah 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 meet him, blah blah blah." And then Nick was like, "That's my buddy Horty." And so I just started hitting her up. I was like, "Hey, I'm a guy in a band. We don't have any money or any notoriety, but you're a big famous director. It'd be cool to work with you one day."
That's
And
how
she
it
was really
happens
cool. Trish was
sometimes.
really cool. Fast forward 3 years, and they're casting for a country band, bluegrass band that has the edge for this movie. And whammy bammy, they saw our videos, they saw our tour schedule, and they liked it.
Beautiful. And
Yeah,
now you have a project called Robin Alice,
Robin
which is
Alice with
with
Kelly.
which is
Kelly
with
Jekyll, she's one of the Bellas from Pitch Perfect. She's cool. She's got a great voice.
nothing wrong with that. What kind of music
Nothing
is
wrong
it?
with that. I guess Americana. It's kind of we're adding. We've steadily added. She's actually in Austin now, so we've steadily added like we've added this dude called Micah Motenko. He's got a band called
Oh,
Motenko. We've
I
added
know
this girl named
Micah. Yeah,
Micah.
great
Yeah,
stuff.
Dana from American Dreamer.
Oh, she's
Uh,
fantastic.
Kimberly Zelnicki. She's a fiddle player. She's played with like Ray Prim and a bunch of other folks. And Gwen from Shivers slash Junior Brown slash the other Shivers slash everything. He's Gwen.
Right.
Uh, so we're aiming for like a 6-part harmony, full rock, like half half ABBA, half Alison Krauss, half Fleetwood Mac. Yeah,
I like it. Half this,
yeah.
half this, half this. Hey
Hmm.
Ronaldo, this is a this he says music question. You can find music here at go through all the different things. One thing that I can give you for sure is this, which is the link, which I wanted to do anyway, to your latest video, which I think is freaking awesome. You play multiple characters,
Hmm.
and it's a really, really, really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song. So everybody on Restream, actually, I wonder if I could put that up here just for a moment. I bet you I can. Watch this.
Yeah.
Oh, this
Uh,
is not going to be easy. Watch
If
this.
you
This is
stick
not,
through to
this is
the
not.
end, sorry, if you stick through to the end, I made a playlist just with all of a handful of videos that I'm in and have made over the years with bands and by myself. It's just called Horty Music Videos Yay. So if you find
Oh,
that
okay.
playlist, that's somewhere on there.
Okay. Because I was just going to say I'm going to put this up for the people who are watching on TV right now. I have a strange suspicion, unless you pause, you will not be able to write this one down, but you can go to one of my socials and get it from the stuff, and we'll put it up again at the end.
Hmm.
Um, country is not the word. As we have been saying through this, Ronaldo asked, country.
Country.
Horty's doing all kinds of music. The old whiskey shiver stuff, I guess you would say is bluegrass, but man, it had quite an edge to it.
Super punk.
Um, yeah, yeah, definitely. I'd say the new Alone video has a little bit of soul vibe to it.
Yeah. That's more like
It's
your
definitely
Jackie
more
Wilson.
influenced by soul music.
Yeah. Definitely, I'm a huge fan of like the sound of the '50s. I know that sounds generic, but like
No.
Jackie Wilson, Sam Cooke, all those guys,
Mm-hmm.
the early Quincy Jones, Frank Sinatra stuff, like
Yep.
you know. But I feel like there's a point in time in which that sound became interpreted by like garage bands in the early '60s and stuff, and I guess that's kind of a reminiscent sound of this song. It's like the
Okay.
British invasion, but like not British and not an invasion.
Dig that too. Dig that too. What was this question that I liked as well? Man, this is kind of a softball, but I love questions that I don't think of.
Yeah.
Like Larry, I would never think of this question, and I love it. What's the first song you play when you pick up a guitar?
Oh,
And like
jeez.
for me, Well, I mean, for me, it's usually like what I'm working on, or like
Yeah.
an idea that I'm trying to get out, or I'm trying to do something new, inspiring. I get that question, you know.
To recenter myself, I usually try to do a bluegrass song that has the chords and the melody inside of it. Because that, like, to me,
Mm,
that really centers my playing as opposed to being like, if I start trying to do like blues riffs or like jazz riffs or anything, I'll get too noodly too quick. That's just I get stoked on how fast I can get from notes to notes, and it's like I can, the phrases are cool, but it's just a different sort of thing that ends up happening. So to recenter myself, I'll do something like oh, like Kentucky Waltz or something like that. You
yeah,
know, something that
but a
has a
flatting version where the melody is kind of inside.
right, exactly. Because to me, that's like simple. That gets it across. I try to think to myself, like, what if I played to a very rural tribe of people, or a small town that doesn't have a CD player, never had a radio for 100 years, and they'd never heard music before. What am I gonna do for them? I'm not gonna come in there like Birds of Fire, like Mahavishnu Orchestra.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so
You could, but you know what the reaction would be.
I could, but that's definitely like scaffolded upon a series of cultural cues and also like musical understanding. You have to understand that there's like 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and then there's like do re mi fa sol, and then do re mi fa sol la te.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole lot of stuff that you kind of have to get to before you can understand that sort of thing without it just being like just abhorrently painful, I guess.
Yeah, it is strange. This is an interesting thing to talk about too, which hasn't come up much on this show. Some people will kind of listen to something that's outside of what they're used to and feel like it's foreign. And after they've listened to it, they start understanding the conventions. Like for
Hmm.
instance, monk is usually a really easy way to get into jazz
Yeah,
because
sure.
people like monk before they like train.
Yeah,
It's like it's fun, it's light, it's kind of quirky, it's still the same changes, it's still the same vibe, it's still somewhat same periods, that kind of thing. And uh, it's accessible. It's like when you go and get sushi for the first time, you always tell people to get unagi,
yeah.
because it's like, yeah,
Simple.
yeah, it's cooked and it's got sauce.
Yeah, yeah.
But and then it's the same thing. Like you mentioned like Mahavishnu or something that's kind of outside. It'd be foolish to throw something at somebody who has only listened to folk music for their whole life,
Sure.
or has only listened to pop, or has only listened to like one kind of thing. Once they get a vibe for it, you know, like I mean, I'll give you another example. Is my wife, she moved us from Canada. I don't like country music, and then I'll play Hank Williams, and she says I like that, and I
Yeah,
said, well,
yeah,
that's country music, and I play Willie Nelson, and she goes, that's great, and I'm
yeah.
like, well, that's country music, and I play Patsy Cline, and she's like, this is something. And it's just sort of a matter of experience, you know.
Yeah, I think generally too. So, it's like if you're at the Grand Canyon, it's breathtaking, right? You see a picture of the Grand Canyon, it's not as breathtaking. You see a picture of the Grand Canyon, and it's probably lost all its effect. You see a picture of a picture of a picture of a Grand Canyon, and it's like there's not even a reason for it.
I don't
Not to be a
understand this.
jerk,
Yeah,
because I understand music needs to evolve, and the modern music scene is rife with all sorts of stuff like and we can access everything. We can listen to anything from any time, so everyone's going to sound like everyone, and that's great. That's amazing. But I think a lot of what people perceive to be country music or jazz music or rock music is a picture of a picture of a picture of a picture at this point.
that's a really really interesting point, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. That's okay.
No, that's
I
okay.
mean,
No, right. I mean, not to
right?
offend any normies out
I
there
mean,
listening to that normie stuff.
yeah, like when the Black Crows came out, they were doing retro music.
Right.
It was
Oh,
a they started as a retro rock, you know, soulful band, and got famous playing, what hard to handle, you know.
Right,
Which
right,
was
right.
what, Wilson Pickett tune or something like that. I can't
Yeah.
remember. But so much of it just melded in. Now they are the classic,
Right.
and they separate them from the originator. And
Yeah, that's a good point too. That's a good point. I
but they
mean,
were original, you know.
yeah,
They were
right.
their own thing.
Right. I mean, no one on earth now invented music.
No,
No one on
no,
earth for the last probably millions of years invented music either. So, I'm not mad at people for sounding similar or
no.
try to
And you don't
imitate.
sound that way at all, bro. No, 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 no. I think we're just kind of, reinventing the wheel. I mean, we are just a product of our influences,
Yeah.
and the more we make something that is ourselves or true to ourselves, the better off we are. And we also live in a world where you can be in a bluegrass band and a rock band and a duo that's somewhat Americana, and they're all
Right.
accepted and they're all great. And that
Oh
didn't
yeah.
used to be the case.
Oh no, indeed. Right, right. I feel like once upon a
It
time it's
didn't.
like you didn't even get to play original stuff. I feel like once upon a time people just came and played parties and did like covers, and not even all the covers, like you had to have like a specific rule set for which covers you did, you
Yep,
know.
you were the Eagles covers guy, or you were
Right.
the Don McLean covers guy, or you were the
Right.
whatever. I gotta say hi to Ronaldo here. Ronaldo, okay, let's go through these questions. We're gonna go super fast.
Sure.
Did you go alive at morning? Yes, we did. Country? Yes. What is the name of our bro? Probably Alex Ruiz. Did you come on last week with Alex because of the Brazil connection? Lee, when is Plank going to do a Barry cover? I don't know, but we'll talk about that at the end of the show. Do I sing, Jeff? Yes. Country is great. I agree. Welcome from Brazil. Rock to yes. Barry cover not. Okay, Ronaldo, I tried to get every single one of those. Bam, bam, bam. He's just like right in there on the chat. I love it that you're with us, though. I love it that
Yeah.
you're with us. I like this question. Susan from KP over in Houston. Support your local public radio, by the way, because, man, they do so much for us. Susan always asks really great questions, and I like this. What creative muscles do you flex different on your solo work than with a band?
Oh wow. Jeez oh Pete's. Well, solo
I know,
work.
man. She asks. I love these questions. Everybody, doesn't matter whether they play or not. I love their questions. That's a probing, super cool question.
I mean, solo work, honestly, once upon a time playing solo meant that I was like going to be like more daring and try out a lot more like experimental performative aspects, I guess, of 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 the music experience. But that's kind of shifted more towards my rock band at this point. And at this point, being solo is like I try to assume that people are going to listen non-judgmentally and talk more vulnerably about where the songs come from and all that stuff. When it's like a rock band or any sort of band, I'm like, all right, cool, this song's about blah blah blah, 1 2 3 4, you know. And
I hear
and
you.
to me when it's the band, it's like you never know what sort of sound system you're dealing with, you know. And I've bantered, certainly Shivers has just talked their way through so many situations, just like bantering it out and killing it. But there have also, unseen to many people or not remembered by many people is the nights in which the sound systems didn't fire off all vocals with the same amount of clarity. And it would be like, hey, what do you call an elephant with a sore thumb? you know?
We got to
And the
do it
crowd's
anyway.
like, what? The crowd just has this dumbfounded look like, what the hell are you guys talking about? You know? So, I guess when I'm doing solo stuff, I try to be concise and clear and speak, you know, not just in a way, it not just vocally in a way that people understand, but also like, with the intention of the song being true and not being too ironically detached,
Yeah,
while
yeah,
still being funny.
yeah. Well, can I ask you this? Because this may be sort of a side of her question, too. Were you as able, like I have noticed just because I know you and I follow your stuff and I'm, kind of a fan,
Woo.
that you do a lot of stretching out beyond music. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you look at the videos that you, okay, not only the video you made, but the short movie that you made,
Yeah.
which was wild and which I was totally into, by the way. And
War Monkey.
just, what's it called again? War
War
Monkey?
Monkey.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put that in there so people can find it. War Monkey. If you want to get tripped out a little bit, and there's a lot said in that. I'm not trying to be whatever. Believe me, the last thing I try and be is woke, because I feel that woke is pretty much code word now for not an asshole.
Yeah.
You know, like woke is like the bar is too low. The bar is way too low for like this. Oh man, he's so woke. It's like no, just being a decent human being.
Right.
You
Right.
know. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of messages kind of coming through that little short movie that I really, really, really dig and kind of latched onto. But point being that you may have a little bit more freedom in your solo stuff to, and I don't know if that's the case, because I'm sure you enjoyed your time with the Shivers and other things and other projects
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you've done, but solo tends to give you the freedom to flex other creative muscles, like Susan says, that don't have anything to do with music.
Oh, indeed. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I definitely think of things visually. Like, that's kind of a cool impetus for me to finish a song or to direct a song or so. It's like, once upon a time, I would hear some notes, and then I would try to hear some words, and I would try to hear a chorus and try to hear, eventually the verse and what the song was about. And that's all stuff you have to do. As a songwriter, you have to embrace those small moments and dive in and really try to get your songs perfect. But then, like I was saying, like this, like the artist, this courtroom artist, whatever, it's like you get to draw faster. Like in every aspect, you get to draw
Right?
faster, not just the lines, but the composition. So it's like, to me, writing a song, I'm capable now more so of getting to the conclusion of the song and kind of moving through these points. As well, I always have like 50 songs that I'm working on all the time, so it's like winner's bias, right? Whichever songs get
Yeah.
finished, I get to talk about them. Uh,
Yeah, man. You know, I have friends that have so many different styles of writing, and I find it fascinating because then I kind of come out of it like, oh, well, I could give that a shot too. Like, I
mhm.
really don't believe there is one way to write a song, and so that's great about this show, and it's something that I get just about knowing a lot of songwriters. I got people who do the songwriter game, where they take a little, blurb and they write a song every week and they turn it in. And that's completely daunting to me. And as many times as I've tried, I couldn't do it. I hated it. It was not my thing. And it works
Yeah.
so great for so many people. I love co-writing on Zoom because, like, the pandemic was incredible for that. It was
Mhm.
like I'm in my comfort zone, they're in their comfort zone. I pick up my guitar and I start strumming. They're writing down something I just said.
Mhm.
How awesome it works. But it's the same thing. I have tons of songs, half on my voice memo, half on a legal pad, half on the guitar. They're
Yeah.
all over the place. And whether or not they're going to come to light is just, you know. And also, when I'm co-writing with somebody, somebody will be like, man, you're really easy. Because if they go, oh, I don't really like that, I just go, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you're not offended? I'm like, no, I got a lot more songs to write. You don't like that? We'll work on something else.
Sure. Right. Indeed. That's a good way to do it. I guess for me, it's like visually, I think about like, because I'm getting into acting. I'm working with this company called Calidus Agency. I'm auditioning a lot. Got a
Badass. Hey,
couple
man, that's
roles.
where it's got to start, you know?
Indeed, it's like just playing shows. You just got to play a lot.
Yeah.
But to me,
It's the
it's like a
equivalent of
song.
an open mic, really.
Yeah, a song can go from just an idea to completion. Sometimes when I have the music video in mind, and I'm like, this would be a great music video. That'll kind of give me impetus to
Oh, that neat. I
invest in the
love.
song.
Never heard that.
Hmm.
I'm sorry. Go on a little bit more about that if you don't mind.
Oh, just like, I mean, it doesn't really influence anything to the point that I'm like, I need to write a break here. I need to write, this here. I need to do this here. It's like that's not what I'm thinking about. But once the music video idea, or at least some skeleton of the idea, is in my head, then it's like, all right, now I have a reason to do it, to really like fully commit and go from, just my crappy little home demos where I'm playing drums on my keyboard, uh yeah,
Boots
exactly,
and pants and
like
boots and pants
boots and
and
pants, going from that to like hiring on the band, practicing with the band, carving out studio time, going through mixing and mastering, and then executing with the music video. Like the music video is like the to me that's the pearl. It's like, oh, I love studio time. I love making music all the time. It's super fun. It's super cool to grow in that. But it's something I've been doing. To me, the visual thing is a nice continuation of the artistic medium, but not the same thing. And
well,
before
I
being a
gotta say
musician
you do.
too, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, before being a musician, I was like I was an actor in college and high school and did like speech team and all that stuff. So like the amount of gigs I had playing guitar before moving to Austin was far outnumbered by the numbers of gigs I had as a stage actor.
Yeah.
And then that changed very quickly.
Well, and that's the thing too. I don't know if you read in Yuval Noah Harari. He's like, I think he's going to be our Noam Chomsky of our generation. He's highly intellectual cat, really great. He wrote *Sapiens* and *Homo Deus* and all those books, and it's really great stuff. And he talks about the kids now. This is going to be my career. You can't. You have to say, I'm going to have to learn to adapt because your career might be gone in 10 years.
Yeah.
Because of technology, because of whatever happens in the world. And I think for those of us who are, anything past millennial, myself anyway, not necessarily you, but like thinking about anybody who's got a little bit of age under him has to think, we can't just do one thing. I don't know anybody who does one thing. No one anymore. And that can be exciting instead of daunting. I know it's tough for a coal miner, to say, well, what the hell am I going to do now?
Yeah,
it's a lot easier when you have always spent your life living, check to check.
Yeah. I feel like people who are
You're not as scared.
I think people who are like had tech jobs leading into this whole boon of how economy exists now, it's like I think they're going to be okay because they were already programmed for change and rapid adaptability. I think.
But the rest of them, who knows? Did you see the meme that was going around? And it was like a guy in front of a computer screen who was like, or no, first it was a guy who was like, I'm going to become a musician so I don't have to spend my life in front of a computer screen. And then it was a picture of a musician with Pro Tools. I spend my life in front of a computer screen. I'm a musician, and doing Zoom like that. And what we're doing right now, I find that we're going to come out of it with a balance and be like, man, I can pick and choose gigs a little bit differently and I can do other things, as well as, sweat it out on the road 3 weeks. I want to go back real quick, even though we're getting really close to the end. I just want to say that is such a cool idea for me. I have never, in my many, many, many years of writing songs, and I have no accolades for that. I just love writing. I write for me and for my albums, mostly. I've never thought to myself, what's the video going to be? Ever. I have never, ever thought while writing a song, what's the video going to be? And then chosen to make that a thing. Now, granted, my solo career started in 2016 at the right 43, but because I was always a side guy. But that just sounds really exciting for me. Okay, so as we're getting close to going off we're going to go off on the television in about 3.5 minutes. I always say one more time, thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you for tips. Keep the tips so that the show will keep rolling so that I can give a little bit to Horti. I always split the tips with my guest. Thanks Austin Music TV for putting us on. Thanks Austin City Jam and everybody who tunes in. You can join the Facebook group and get your question in early. That's the best way to question so I don't have to worry about it. My guest is Jeff Hortillosa, and this is his website where you can get to all the social. You can find out about other stuff. Yeah, like that, I guess, right? I get better at this one of these days. Instagram is a really good place to find out about shows as far as Horty's concerned and like what projects he's doing, etc., etc., etc. Don't forget to look up that other thing. But the question I always ask as we're going off, the only Jeff Plankenhorn question is this: what is your guilty pleasure music? And the reason I ask is because on like one of the first shows, somebody said something and they found out that I was a Fanalo. And I was in the grocery store yesterday and I heard a Barry Manilow song. And it's not my fault. My mother used to play Barry Manilow records when I was little, and she snuck them in. It would be songs in the key of life, and then it'd be classical music, and then it'd be Manilow. And I would dance around on the bed at 4 years old to Copacabana, you know, and listen to Can't Smile Without You. Now I get a warm, fuzzy feeling. Everybody who comes on has something that kind of like, not necessarily guilty, but something that they dig that you wouldn't expect. I've had great female singer-songwriters come on and say, I love the Spice Girls. I've had people come on and say, I'm, you know, really, really, really into free jazz. I've had all sorts of stuff.
Golly, this is a crazy, crazy question because I mean, like I've thought about this a lot. Like the reason that people like the songs that they do, whether it's songs that you would think that they like or songs that they don't think that they would like, it's entirely like socio-culturally bound, right? Like the first time you hear a song depends who you're with and how their opinion towards it. As a kid, you know, I'm not saying as an adult where you have your own opinions, you know, but we all go through that. Where as kids, you just listen to what's being listened to around you. And then as you get older, you're exposed to things that you thought were different, but then it like enlightens you to feel like I'm not so different, right?
It's kind of like religion.
Get older, and some of us like more and more different stuff and more different stuff. But it's like almost like the differences is what makes us whole and unique. To me, I always felt like I didn't have like a ground base of music. You know, some kids they like grow up, their parents are listening to Willie with them or whatever. I mean, I guess I first learned to sing in the church, at the Catholic church and choir and stuff. And my parents were into like the Beatles and ABBA and sounds of the 70s and early 50s and 60s of America as they got records in the Philippines, you know.
So wait, we were both boy sopranos though.
Maybe.
I was a boy soprano.
I don't remember my range, but probably.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
But anyway, like it just always like, you know, I was never like into country music until I got into bluegrass and I was like, oh, bluegrass is awesome. And then I started to get into a little bit more country music and stuff like that. So I guess guilty pleasure wise, I'm trying to think of something that I really feel truly guilty about because I feel like I was othered by
or
so
more
many,
just what's left field.
what's left field. I don't know.
Yeah, like what's left field or
Dua Lipa's a new pop star. Her lyrics are super stupid.
Fantastic.
Her voice is sick. She's got a great voice. Her lyrics, super dumb. All of them are super dumb. But I think that's how commercials work, you know? It's like songs now, pop songs are somewhat commercial, somewhat lullaby, somewhat sex appeal. That seems to be what the pop market is. And all of those things hinge upon being a little annoying.
But you like it.
But you like it. If it wasn't annoying, it wouldn't be memorable. I have another theory. Okay, so like Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas, I never thought it was good. I never thought it was good. There was like a brief period of like 3 or 4 years in which she had a string of hits and everyone was more annoying than the next, right? Flash forward 14 years, I hear it on the radio and I'm like, is this something I liked or just something I remember? I can't tell the difference. Let me turn it up because it makes me nostalgic for being 21 again. Blam.
And that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
it's like,
I've kind of had the same. I've had the same thing happen with Tom Petty, which I know people are gonna say, oh, but here's the thing: like I wasn't listening to that.
Yeah.
But it was the soundtrack to our lives, whether we like it or not, because it was played so much.
Right.
And now I listen to a song, I go, yeah, that's a really, really good rock song, and it's got really, really great lyrics, and the albums are different because they're different producers, and I take a deep dive at Tom Petty, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of there. There's a lot of there that I didn't know was there.
Right.
But the same thing happens with nostalgia in music. I think you would be really hip. A couple of booking agents, not kidding. My booking agent got me into this really, really great book called Hit Makers. about what you would think. But what's fascinating about it is, I think the first story is about how Bill Haley and Rock Around the Clock was a B-side to a guy that they were pushing as country who was begging to put out rock and roll. And it took 2 years of the song being out and a little kid listening to a B-side in their room and dancing around, and the director saying this needs to go into Concrete Jungle, the movie.
Yes.
And then it was like, here's the beginning of the movie. And then and it's such a testament to people liking what's put in front of them, and that it doesn't necessarily work to just put it out there and it's good. And as the book goes on, it's super, super fascinating because you get stories of like the 7 French impressionists, and how basically if you take people who don't know art and you put a ton of other French impressionists right next to the famous 7 ones, they don't have any difference of I like this, I like that, I like this, I like that. But if you tell them, they're like, oh, of course I love these. I love the ones from the 7. And the reason was they were curated by this guy who just said, okay, this is the collection. These are the 7. There's going to be this many this painting, this many Monet, this many this. And it's a really, really fascinating read that basically talks about what you're talking about, you know. And so much of it is what has been put in front of us, you know, what we're exposed to. But people are kind of tastemakers. That's why I miss DJs too. DJs are now playlist makers.
Yeah.
You know, like I love Mike D's playlists. You know, I do, man. Mike D's The Echo Chamber. Oh my God, I find so much new music I would never find checking that out. You know, and we don't have DJs anymore, so we gotta have people who make playlists and spread them around.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway. That was a lot of me talking.
Bring DJs back.
Yeah,
Bring the DJs back for being sick.
No kidding, right? Because it was cool. All right, let me see. I'm making sure that we hit on everything. It's been my joy talking to you today. Since we are offline, I really want everybody to go specifically, like if you go see this video here. Hold on a second. Let me put that video up again. Let me put the video link up. And the best thing that you guys can do for any star now, you know, people ask me all the time, what can I do for a musician? You know, is it okay if I'm on Spotify? The answer is yes. Of course it's okay you're there, but make sure that you hit the like button and the save button, and that you create playlists and you share them with your friends, because otherwise the algorithm isn't going to hear. It's not going to know anything. Mm-hmm. They don't care about plays anymore. They don't care about spins. They care that you're bringing other people in. They figured that out with Wolfpack. There's no more Sleepify where you can put music on and just repeat it over and over again and somebody's going to get paid. That ain't gonna happen. But, for instance, if we go to this video for Horti right there, then what you're going to do is you're going to like it and share it with people and put it up on your social media. Those are the best things that you could do to kind of spread the word about somebody that you dig. Best thing you can do is go to a show and buy a t-shirt or something, you know. Go to a show, buy a CD, even if you ain't going to listen to it. Buy it and make yourself a nice coaster. We're all walking around with $30,000 business cards. Oh, so yeah. But I really, really appreciate you, man. And you got anything coming up since we're off television that you can like plug a show or anything right now?
Not anything in particular right now, no.
Okay. All right. Well, they'll just stay tuned and to check out the music. Hey, you going to be around for Halloween?
No, I totally do. No, second thought.
Okay,
second thought.
Do it. What is it?
August 4th at the Far Out Lounge in Austin, Texas. Rob and Alice. August 4th. Far Out Lounge.
Rob and Alice at the Far Out Lounge. I spelled lounge wrong.
Oops.
Boom.
There we go.
No, there ain't no oops. I just forget to ask until the end, so there you go. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks everybody for the tips. Stay on with me when I hit end, Horti, and can't thank you enough, man.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Thank you.
All right.